Greetings, 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 everyone. TGIF. Another Friday. Yes, it's time for the weekend to begin. I hope you guys had a very great week. Temperatures are warming up everywhere. And We're having summer temperatures here in Chicago. I mean, 70 degrees. Come on. That's summer. But it's been nice here. Little rain, but the temps are definitely up. People are out. You're hearing the motorcycles, more bike riding, and folks are just out. They got their sounds blasting in the car when they pick up somebody. You know that summer sound. That's what's happening. But less people are wearing their mask. That I am a little concerned on, but I just social distance and keep it moving. Can't, control what other people do. Just try to make yourself as safe as possible. That is all you can do. Let's see what else is going on. Ah, they had actually allowed some of the restaurants to open back up now. They're trying. But the big issue is a lot of the restaurants are not able to hire a lot of workers. A lot of them may have 4 workers at a time. They're not able to because they don't have the financial means. So you have 2 little people trying to work the few tables that they do have, but it is a lot of work, and they gotta split their tips, and you know how that is. People are really, kinda struggling. They don't have as much as they used to. People are out, when they can, because people are still, having meetings when they can, as well as dates. So they enjoy a chance to get into a restaurant and have a little bite to eat. I find that a lot of the restaurants, they're sending emails all the time with deals, trying to get you to come in the restaurant. Um, I still get those coffee deals from Panera Bread, um, Corner Store Bakery. They are still contacting me like, "Hey, you want 3 months of coffee free?" I'm like, yeah, but I don't really want to travel to go get it, so I'm gonna pass." But it was nice when they first offered it. It was, new. It was cool. And yeah, so if you guys do go to the restaurants and you're able to afford it, tip the folk. But I know you all can afford it because what? Everybody makes 6 figures in YouTube. I know. I know. So you all are good. Okay. And the last thing I'll mention, and we'll get the show started, is did I speak to everybody? Yes. The next thing is smoke detectors. I don't know what it is about people that just do not pay attention to that chirping sound. It irritates me so much. I just want to go through the telephone and change it myself for the person because I'm just not getting how I'm on the phone with you for 15 minutes and I'm hearing it chirp at least 6 times, and that doesn't disturb you because it disturbs me. A lot of people are working from home now, so if you call for order for something small like Bath and Body Works, you pay a bill for your internet, a couple other places that I've called, and they're actually working from home. And I'm hearing, I get it as far as the children, you have children that come in sometime, but the beeping of the smoke detector. Now, come on, people. You can change that. It doesn't take a lot of effort. The battery, I think, maybe $2. If you had the thing for a long time, it may be time to upgrade it. Even do that because it's protection for you and your family. And I remember on YouTube, we used to have a person that will get on everyone's stream with that smoke detector chirping. And that went on for months. And I'm concerned because that's just me. I emailed the person. I said, "Hey, guy, your smoke detector, chirping." So after a couple of months, I bumped into them again. I'm like, "Okay, did you get around to changing their battery?" And they told me they're going to get to it. And it chirped for at least 9 months on YouTube. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm pretty sure if you been around in the YouTube streets, you've seen this and heard it yourself. But that's all I have for my opener. And without further ado, and I don't have my sound effects. I'm gonna have to let me see if I can get it up because it's not. Oh yeah, I do. Okay, I got my small sound effect. Yeah, okay. Without further ado, everyone, you know what to do. You can stand up, raise your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care, and give a nice, warm greeting to the wonderful, the lovely Classic Ruby. Everybody, Classic Ruby.
Ruby. What's my alter ego name? Ruby. And who I'm rolling with, huh? Shaw Willie. You two better get it right. These streets better get it right. Yeah, that's right. See, I wrote as an entrance.
Ooh, oh, that talent everywhere. Rapper, okay. Do
Right?
your thing.
I figured, listen, if Shar can sing, I can rap. And,
That's right.
we were talking about favorite Jay-Z songs on Wednesday. So I said, okay, I can rewrite a Jay-Z song and show y'all my rap talent. How'd y'all like it? I know it's better than Shar's singing, that's for sure. That's all I'm saying. How you doing, girl?
I am doing well, and I'm only sticking to one, maybe two sentences when it comes down to singing. So, I know my limit. I know my limitations.
True, true, true. Hey, listen, I'm sticking to the chorus because I know my limitations too. So we all right.
Good deal. Well, I hope you had a great week and ready for the weekend. I know I am. It's been a little long.
I would say yes, except I basically live in a country under martial law right now, where depending on your province, you're either under curfew or you're just not allowed to leave your house. So, what's worse, Shar, and I will talk about this tomorrow, y'all. I told y'all on Wednesday, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, is if you go into a store that sells non essential things, they will not let you buy non essential things. Okay? They rope off the aisles that sell things that are not food, so like electronics and stuff. And you're not allowed to even go down the aisle, let alone buy the stuff because it's not essential, right? So you go to Walmart thinking, "Oh, good, I could pick up that thing I need." No, you can't. You can pick up food and water. That's all you can buy. So I don't know if I'm looking forward to
Mm,
the weekend. It's not going to be a weekend of fun, that's for sure. I mean, yeah,
right. That's
yeah,
something,
kind
though.
of.
We got people they're getting out, and some of the places are opening, but I do see people that not wear their mask like they should.
Hmm. Well, yeah, and that's the thing, though, right? Is because people decide not to wear the mask, because people decide not to follow things, then the more things open, the more that makes a difference. And then, you start going through your second and then third wave and then fourth wave, and then your ICU start getting overcrowded again. And then guess what? Everything gets shut down further. So as much as people don't like it, and I understand, we show like 15 Karens a week. I understand. It sucks. You don't get to show off your makeup or whatever under your mask. Whatever, right? But like,
Right.
really? Really? Aren't y'all tired of this? I'm tired of it. And I do understand that as long as it's going to continue to be a problem, so until the vaccinations get out there or whatever, dude, just wear the mask. Wear the mask so you can keep the tiny bit of freedom you have. Trust me, all of Canada right now is wishing that some people just kept their damn masks on. So right now, with this warm weather that came, we could all go outside and play. My girl lives in my building, Shar,
Uh-huh.
and I haven't seen her or her baby in a good while. And so she's like, "Oh, I want you to see the baby's new outfit. We're at the park, but I don't have kids, so I'm not allowed near the park." So she came underneath my balcony, right, with the baby to show me the baby, like holding it up to the sky like it's Lion King, right? So,
Right.
right, we talking over the building, over the balcony, and people came out and they went, "Oh, just one of these situations." Went back inside because how else are you supposed to see people in the building? You know what I mean? You're
Right.
not allowed to talk to each other. So I mean, just wear the mask. Just wear the mask, please, for really's sake. Right?
I hear you.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start with the show. Um, this was a post, and I read it as a letter. And I gave the guy named James. I don't know. I just decided his name is going to be James. So
Oh,
I'll
nice.
go ahead and share and play it for the audience, so they'll know what we're speaking of. And let's see here. And here we go. Wedding postponed. Okay, this letter is from a gentleman that had written to anyone for advice, and we're going to use that particular letter for tonight's show. Okay, so for the sake of the show, we will name him James. So James had written that he was engaged to be married, and this is the story. He met a woman, they started dating, they got engaged. And previously, she was engaged before, and what happened was her partner had died 3 weeks before their wedding. She didn't really speak about their relationship or anything, but when it came down to picking a date for these two to get married, it happened to be the same exact date that she was going to get married to the guy who passed away. Well, he wasn't for that. He didn't like that. And he said that they didn't have any issues. When it came down to planning for this wedding, that's when they began to have issues. He did not give the date. He just said this specific date he just did not want. He said he had several reasons why he didn't want that date. One was because she was previously going to get married to someone else. And then two, which really is the maybe even the best reason, his mother was sick and she had just had a major surgery. So he wanted her to go ahead and recover and give her some time to recover so she can come to his wedding. That is his only family that's left. But when he told his fiance, she refused. She insisted on having that particular date that she picked out. So he went on, didn't talk about it. And then he found out through his brother in law that she had his sister to send out invitations with that specific date. And when he talked to the brother in law just said, hey, that specific date is the date that she was going to get married originally. So James, he confronted his fiance, but it didn't mean anything to her. She defended herself by saying it should not matter what the date was. It shouldn't be a big deal. He said it matters to him. And not only that, does it matter to him, she should not have sent out invitations without even discussing it with him. So what he ended up doing, he had reached out to everyone that received the invitation. He emailed everyone and told them that the wedding had been postponed. He didn't give a real reason why, haha, but he did apologize. So what she went and did, she actually told everyone why he postponed the wedding. And no one cared too much about that. They didn't like that. They looked at him as the enemy. Everyone criticized him, saying that it was ridiculous, it wasn't a big thing. But He doesn't feel that way. So the wedding is postponed, and he's looking for people to give their suggestions, advice, and comments. So let's do it.
Hmm. Ah, yeah. Listen, brothers, y'all know I try to be fair to y'all. Y'all know I do. Y'all know I do. But I already feel this one in my bones. I ain't gonna be fair to y'all at all. I already know. I already know. Everything that popped into my head was not in support of him. I already know. Because
Uh oh.
here's my thing, right? First of all, the first thing I want to know, which we don't have that information, I understand, right?
Yeah.
Is do okay, when he said he didn't want that date, right? Because his
Yes.
mother was sick. I mean, you plan weddings months in advance. It's not like you get, oh, we're engaged today. Okay, we're going to get married next month and just tell everyone about it like it's a birthday party, right? Like it, you book these things like 6 to 8 months minimum in advance, minimum. So the first thing that I wonder then is if he's saying his mother is sick and he knows that from now that she's not going to be well enough in 6 months for her to attend the wedding. So then did he want to postpone another year for like the next wedding season, the next spring, summer to come? Because other than that, I can't see when it comes to his mother's health how a couple months is going to make that much of a difference. When we're talking about health, in fact, I would think that the only kind of thing that we know for sure, like someone would be sick in 6 to 8 months, are very serious things. And if anything, you're probably looking at someone who might be even terminal. So you'd probably want to have the wedding as early as possible to make sure that that person could be there at all before they got worse. So I kind of feel like the and my mother's sick and I want her to be there was thrown in as like a red herring to because he understands, dead fiance is gonna trump basically anything else he says. So he threw that one thing in. But I kind of feel like, short of him saying, well, I didn't want to get married until the next year, I don't feel like that's a valid point. But throwing in another question that we don't know, he told us all the reasons why he didn't want to get married on that date. But I feel like he doesn't even understand why that date is actually relevant and significant to her, other than her previous wedding was planned for that date. Um, but there could be an additional significance to that date. The original reason why she picked that date might have already been significant to her in her life, right? And so now that it's now 3 4 years later, so now that date is falling on a weekend again, and okay, yay. She's like, okay, I still want that date because it's still just as important to me. And he just assumes, well, it's just because you were going to get married to the other guy and I want nothing to do with anything to do with your previous wedding, or you even thinking about him on that day, so hell no. And that's where I think he really stands on this situation. And so as a result, I feel like he's wrong because I feel like the only true way to approach this would be, first of all, to ask her, why is this day, that particular day, why is that so important to you? Why can't it be a week before or a week later? Like, tell me what's significant about that day. Explain to me why that's important, period, to you. Why is that important to our wedding? Before just kind of putting your foot down and being held and, making assumptions and then saying, hell no, based on your assumptions. Like, yeah, I do think you're wrong. These types of details are so much more important to women in general. In general, when it comes to weddings, guys have a few things they care about, like an open bar or whatever, and then that's about it, right? But women really care about all the little fussy details of weddings. So in general, you don't hear that much pushback about these things very often. And I feel like he couldn't care less about her reasons. So yeah,
Well,
that's
my question is, what is her reason?
right.
Yes, there's nothing given that's specific except for she want that particular date. And it's been narrowed down to that was the date she was going to get married before. Okay. All right. I got that. But you sent out invitations anyway
Mhm.
after the first conversation we had about it that I'm like, no, because I want to wait till my mom recover. And then she can come to the wedding because that particular date, that was his original stance, was not going to work. Okay. But she sent out the invitations anyway behind the man's back.
Mhm.
So, regardless of how important that was, she sent the invitations behind the man's back. And I'm not able to move past that. And
Mm-mm.
we have two other people on the panel, and Chandra, he came here first. Chandra, would you like to
Hey,
speak? And welcome Vonda as well.
Hey, everybody.
hey,
Hey, hey,
Rhonda.
Hey
hey.
everyone.
For having
Hey,
me.
Chandra.
Hey.
Anytime.
So there are two major points of contention that I have with this lady. First of all, sending out the thing behind his back, and then when he decides to postpone the wedding, going behind his back and turning everybody into his enemy over it. Now, this is having it called having an enemy in the house. This is not the woman you should marry because if she's going to do this over something as simple as a date, how no matter how significant this date is to her, it means that she's willing to do this with other things in your life, and she's going to turn everybody around you against you as part of your day-to-day livings. Your wife is going to be telling your friends, well, he's this, he's that, he's this, and this is how he is, so you shouldn't be good to him. Why would you put somebody in your life that makes everybody else your enemy? Doesn't make sense to me. I
Right.
say cut her off instantly. There is no postponement. There is no wedding. She could get married on that date to somebody else.
Ooh, dang, Chandra. Okay. Well,
Mm. Well, a-hole corner has spoken. All right, Vonda.
you know what? I'm gonna have to say that in this instance, and I want to say this is landmark. This would be the first time I agree with everything that just came out of Chandra's mouth. I'm dead serious because my thing is that she's not getting married by herself. She's marrying another person. And the fact that she won't even meet him halfway with a date, the date is it's very small, but but this instance is very significant because he undoubtedly told her, no, that's not a good day. I don't want to do it on that day. So, we need to figure out something else. And guess what she said? I don't give a damn what you think. I'm sending out the invitations anyway, and you just need to show up. Get your tux and show up. So if she's doing this crap, I believe, Chandra, if she's doing this and you guys haven't even gotten married, what is it going to be next? And then she's okay with all of her family and friends thinking he's a jerk for postponing the wedding. She's okay with that. But she still wants to marry, quote unquote, this jerk. But she's okay with her entire family thinking that he's, an overreacting jerk, which I don't believe that he is. He has a right to be able to share in the date. It's not like he's telling her what kind of dress to get. Now, if he was trying to step all over her dress and say, "Oh no, I want you to wear something that's, up to the neck and long sleeves and down to the ankles." Oh, hell no. You don't tell a woman on her wedding day what to wear. But she won't even, compromise with this man, her future husband, with the date. So he has to celebrate his anniversary on the day that she was supposed to marry another man. That does make a difference. I know the man is dead, but obviously that means something to her. Because
Yeah,
it's
but you
not like
don't
her
know
and the
why.
man broke up. It's not like her and the man broke up. That fool died. Had he not died, she'd be married to him.
Yeah, but you don't know why that. See, that was and I wanted to make that point early, right? Is he decided that the reason why that date is relevant to her and therefore why she wants to get married on that date is because it was her original, wedding date with this other guy. My point is, we don't know why it was her original wedding date with this other guy. That could be a very relevant date in her life otherwise. And I don't think he wants to hear it or understand why it's relevant otherwise. Maybe it's the birthday of her dead father. Maybe it's the anniversary of a promise she made to God at some point. We don't know. But my point is that date could be relevant to her for an incredibly reasonable reason of why you'd want to get married on that date that actually has nothing to do with the previous fiance. But if you're not willing to hear it because you've already decided, well, it's associated with the other guy, and that's the reason why you want it, and I want nothing to do with anything that even vaguely reminds you of the other guy, so screw it, and you're going to just write it off, then I can kind of see why you might not think that that's a reasonable stance to take. But second of all, and I do want to point this out, because I do think that there's a chance, right? Because we don't really know. He didn't give us like a super, regimented timeline. But there's a chance that he said, let's get married this year. And she sent the invitations out first. And then they had the discussion about the date. And then she was like, well, okay, I'm not going to tell you about what has already happened. So hopefully you'll be okay with it when you find out. Because, he said it so back to back that there's a chance that those invitations went out long before. You mailed them out, right? Then they had the discussion. She thought it was going to be okay. She found out in that moment it is definitely not going to be okay. And rather than say, well, I already sent out the invitation, she just went, oh, let's have this argument again a little bit later, and then hopefully you'll be better off about it. But to Chandra's point, and I wanted to say this. Now, you can say, okay, she sent out these invitations. He went out of his way to get the email of all the people who received the invitation to tell them, no, sorry, we're not having our wedding on that date. It's postponed. We'll let you know when we've actually come up with the real date. Now, these are her friends and family, as you said. There's a good chance that they just contacted her. Not that she turned around and said, oh, you sent out that email. Well, I'm going to send out emails too. But that they contacted her and said, hey, what happened? So she explained it. And because these are friends and family, you explain it to one person. Now it's a game of telephone. Everyone's calling everyone to explain to them what happened. So it might not be the case that she turned around and with malice aforethought, said, I'm going to bash him and make him, well, he just doesn't want the date and blah, 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 and like said all this terrible stuff about it. He went out of his way to email everyone. He didn't even give her the opportunity to do it. He turned around and told everyone. And then they contacted her, right? Her answering their question, I don't think automatically makes her like some evil witch who, is unmarriageable.
Well, she talked too much.
Yeah, I don't agree with you, Ruby. I just do not agree with you.
Ruby, you see, first of all, Ruby, you made two mistakes here.
Uh-oh.
You are messing with the chronology of the letter. So let's assume that what he's saying in the letter is true. So you're messing with the chronology of the letter. So yes, what he said is they had the conversation and then she sent out the invitations. Let's assume that he's telling the truth in his letter. And then let's follow it up with, even if she did not intend to have her entire family against him, the fact that she allowed them to continue to be against him, that is on her.
Yeah. See, but again, I don't agree with that. Even if, okay, you're right. We'll give you that, but he said it. Fine. Just because he said it, and I'm looking at him with a little bit of side eye, and I don't 100% believe his telling of events, but fine. That's what she did. They had the discussion. He said, definitely not. She said, you know what? Better to ask for forgiveness than permission, forgetting she already asked for permission and was denied. So she sent it out. Okay. Then again, rather than once he catches wind of it, him saying, listen, you need to send out a retraction for that date or we're done. He turned around and emailed everybody and gave them a short, blunt, no explanation, no flowery wording that makes people go, oh, okay, I understand, and mind their own damn business retort, which then made people come to her. She, no matter how she explained that at that point, right? Everyone is going to look at him a particular way. And no matter how much she tries to say, no, he didn't mean that way. No, really, I did something wrong first and blah, 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 blah. If they're her friends and family, they're going to be on her side, especially in things that are as heated as a wedding. So,
Okay,
But
Ruby. I'm gonna
mhm.
say, okay, I'll agree with that. Family and friends, they're gonna be on your side. But why did she have to say anything? Why couldn't she just said, well, it's postponed right now. I'll get back to you guys and we'll talk about it later.
exactly,
What was wrong
exactly.
with that?
He doesn't owe her family a freaking explanation about what day he wants to get married on. That day and that choice and that decision is between him and her. He unequivocally told her, I don't want that date. You know, my mom, this, that, and the third. Whether that was the reason or not, it doesn't matter. He did not want that date. And if they're going to be celebrating their anniversary together, can he not get the freaking date that he wants? And I think the fact that she went so against him, he's like, oh my God, this is just, this is the sign of what's going to be happening later. This is a sign of what's going to be happening later. And then also, Ruby, this woman, the fact that she sent out the invitations behind his back, she does not strike me as the type that can't open her mouth and tell him the important reason why she wanted this date. She just went ahead and did it anyway. And what she did was childish. That's what kids do. You're out with your friends and your parents told you to be home at 10 o'clock. And then you call your mom and say, everybody's going, to such and such, can I come home at midnight? No. And guess what you do? I'm going to do it anyway. You come home at midnight.
Yeah,
And
but you know what
you
though?
get toe up when you get through the door. As soon as you get one leg in the door, you get toe up.
And you're right, but if you watch like these shows, right, that deal with like bad behavior in kids and stuff like that and whatever, right, there are the kids who are acting out for like attention. There are the kids who are acting out just because they didn't want to miss out on something. But then there are kids who are acting out for a very specific reason. There's a very specific thing behind that. And could they have told you the importance of that thing? Absolutely. But why don't they? Normally they don't because they think they're just going to be dismissed anyway. They think that it's already, you already said no and no always means no with you and blah, 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 right? And then hence the whole saying of asking for forgiveness instead of permission was born amongst adults, to be fair. But, and see, I would agree, it is childish, right? It's not a mature way of handling things. And, that is 1,000% on her. That doesn't mean, though, that doesn't, to me, belittle a possible very deep, very significant attachment to a particular date. And, just because she handled this badly doesn't mean, oh, she could have just opened her mouth. No, because there are things that, like, man, I open my mouth all the time. Y'all know I do. And I feel no way sharing all kinds of stuff with y'all. Right. But there are particular things, very particular things that, like, I couldn't even fix my mouth to start trying to say. Okay. Because they are that meaningful or significant to me. They're that difficult for me to broach. And so, I can understand how you could be actually a very vocal person and at the same time not necessarily feel comfortable broaching every subject. For the question Char asked, I'll say this. I mean, I don't know. Not everyone's like this. Some people prefer to deal with their problems on their own, like just even as an individual. They don't even want to turn to their spouse to deal with the problem. They just deal with things internally and then whatever. But some people need the support of friends and loved ones when they're hurt, or maybe a trusted friend or a trusted loved one when they're hurt, when they're upset, when they need to vent, whatever. Most people are like that. And if they're not like that
Yeah.
all the time, most people have been in that scenario where they need to vent, where they are hurt, where they are frustrated or upset, right? So they vent to their listening ear, get some of all of that jumbleness out, right? And then they go back with their spouse and discuss things, right? So I don't think that that's all that abnormal. The problem is, right,
Mhm.
in situations like this, again, is that all it takes is that one sympathetic ear that you turn to have a big damn mouth. And now the whole list knows, right? And so, should you then know better and choose the people that you are trusting more wisely? Absolutely. If you're not good at judging that, is that another indication of immaturity? Probably, right? And so that's why I
Mm.
say I'll give y'all the immaturity factor. I will. I do see some immaturity, but I do think there is a difference between immaturity and like treason. And I don't think she's
Okay.
and I
Mm.
don't think that she has been intentionally as treasonous. Just like I don't think he has been as good as y'all are letting him be. Is all I'm
Okay,
saying.
so this is what I'm gonna say on that. Okay, so she tried to explain, "Oh, don't paint him like that. He didn't mean it. Oh." But everyone says, "Oh, he's a jerk. He shouldn't be all sensitive. It's just a date. Ha ha ha." So my question is, why don't they know about the date and the importance? And he's the only one that doesn't know. You think that he tried to I mean, she tried to explain it to him and he wasn't having it? And even if that's the case, he says, "No, not that date." And he could have, like I say, he could be, I'll accept that. He might thrown his mom in there, but I doubt it because according to the order, my mom needs some time to recover. I want her at my wedding. She's my only family member. She's the only one left.
Exactly. So I mean, he doesn't even have a right. Even if, like you say, if he was just making that up, he said what he said. He wants to have his mom there, and if his mom really wasn't sick, she would know that. So the issue is his mom was sick, and that was not a good date. And I don't want to get married on that date. So for him, if that was really the reason, and it was for his mom, and she was like, you know what, F your mama, I'm gonna send out these invitations anyway. I don't want her there anyhow. That's kind of like a slap in his face.
You know why? Listen, Vonda, you've gotten married before. I don't know, but I'll tell you that I know that me sending my wedding invitations 6 months, 6 months early was not early enough. Okay, it wasn't. And like people were complaining, they knew that my wedding was coming sometime that year, and 6 months was not going to be early enough. I sent my wedding invitations 4 months early, and even then, it was problematic. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. How do you know? Unless it's something that's like incredibly long standing and therefore terminal, right? Or something that's very long standing is going to be like, a year long battle. How do you know in 6 months your mom is going to be too sick to attend that wedding? If she's going to be too sick to attend your wedding in 6 months, right? Then are you sure she's going to get better by when? Probably next year. So then that was my original question. Was the issue that he wanted to postpone the wedding until the next year, not another date? Because you can't know 6 months in advance that on the third week in May, your mom's going to be too sick to attend, but on the first week in June, she's going to be fine. You can't know that 6 months in advance, 4 months in advance, 2 months. Like, you
Unless she
don't
has a
know that.
surgery scheduled.
That's what I was going to say, Chandra. We're talking about all these what ifs. What if there was a surgery that was supposed to be scheduled before that date and it would not give her enough time to heal and recover?
Sickness surgery. We do know the difference between these words. That's why I said I don't buy what he said, because it doesn't logically make sense to me, because I know you have to plan weddings well in advance, right? You couldn't pick a date, and that this is another issue. You can't pick a date without having all that stuff booked in advance. You book all this stuff in advance first, then you send out a date saying, hey, listen, this is the day that we're getting married. So the fact that she sent out the invitations, that's why I said, I'm like, I think the date was already picked, everything was already booked, and she sent out those invitations before they had the argument. Because how do you pick the date and tell everyone to come on that date if you don't have a venue? Because where the hell are they going? You don't have a venue to get married in. You don't have anything booked at all, but you're going to tell everyone to show up where, right? Your invitation gives you that information, which means you had to have booked those places. So that's where I'm looking at it, and I think, yeah, I think she did all of it first and then had that argument with him. He thinks she sent them after the fact, but really she did all of this without him even knowing. Oh, we're getting married? Yeah, babe, take care of everything. He's thinking when he said that, like, yeah, babe, of course you can pick this and that, whatever. That of course she would turn around and discuss things with him, and she didn't. She just planned everything, sent out the invitations, then had that discussion. So that's, I mean, and again, I'm just going by the way weddings work, right? Like,
well, you're absolutely correct. I mean, a wedding, can take anywhere from 6 months to a year to plan out. I planned out my wedding exactly at 6 months. And it was a chore. I had a lot of things that I had to do. So the very first thing you're going to come up with is the date. The date is the very first thing that you come up with. Now, if the date was already the very first thing that they came up with, because you can't do anything else until you have a date, because you have to know, the venue place has to know, okay, well, what date? The flower people, okay, what date you need this done? The cake people, what date are you going to need this? Your dress, okay, what date does this dress need to be done? So I agree, the date was already chosen. So if the date was already chosen, he already knew that that was the day her fiance died. That he had already died, and that was the day that they were supposed to get married. I think he already knew that. I don't think that was a secret. I think that his mother's, illness, sickness, surgery, whatever you want to call it, came up, and he said, you know what, that date's not going to work because my mom, this, that, and the third. So we need to change that date. I don't think he changed the date because it was because of the ex-fiance that passed away, because the date was the first thing that you come up with. After you say, will you marry me? Yes, I will. Okay, what date? That's the first day the woman wants to do. She wants to know what day. Oh, I want to be a June bride, so we're going to get married in June. What day in June? Oh, this week. And you start picking weekends because you're not getting married on a Tuesday. You're like, what weekend in June do I want to get married? And then you start looking at venues and you say, oh, I want this weekend. They go, oh, no, we have another event. And then you say, okay, what about the following weekend? So that date was already picked. So he knew that was the fiance's wedding date.
Right.
And I just think that she's going against the grain. And one thing about it, my husband, he didn't have a problem with me planning. I planned everything. But if he came to me and he was like, oh, no, Vonda, I know we picked, June, but this, that, and the third, that's not a good date. Because I originally wanted to get married in June. We ended up getting married in July. I wanted to be a June bride. I don't know what significance that means, but I just wanted to get married in June. But it ended up being in July. I was like, okay, and to be honest, for me, I don't give a damn what day we're getting married. I wanted to be married. I wanted to marry my beloved, If he said, November 1st, okay, cool. That's what we would have did.
Now, may I go ahead and pull a Vonda here? Vonda tends to insert her life experiences into certain situations, so I'm going to pull one of your moves. So let's say she wanted to get married on Valentine's Day, right? Valentine's Day, February 14th. She wants to get married on Valentine's Day. Regardless of whether or not, that was the day she wanted to get married to the last guy, let's say that I have an issue with it. Let's say because my aunt, who got married on Valentine's Day, died less than a year later of a tubal pregnancy, and that's a heart-scarring day because, I don't, that was years of my aunt's life that was taken away from her, right? So I don't want to get married on Valentine's Day. If, for whatever reason, I decide I don't want to get married on Valentine's Day, she should be willing to work with me, not go behind my back.
I agree.
Okay.
If she decides that she wants to go behind my back, she can be married. She can be sitting there at the altar by herself.
But what if it's the opposite way, right? What if ultimately the scarring, traumatic, and uplifting date is the date that she picked, because that is the date that, something both horrible and traumatic and loving all happened in her life. And so she vowed that would be the day that she got married, because, that's the day that her favorite grandmother passed away after her long battle with, stage 4 cancer. right? So I guess that's my point. That was a point that I was making, but in reverse, right? Is I don't think he cared to hear of why this date might actually be important otherwise. I think that in and of itself, because he said it very clearly in his list of reasons, right? This was her date with someone else. I don't care why she picked that date with someone else. The point is, it was a date with someone else. Therefore, it can't be our date. The end. Right?
I think,
Okay, and he has a right to that, though. He has a right to that, because if you're gonna be with someone, this is something that he has a right to. He can choose not to be with her. He can choose not to want to be married on the same day that she had planned with someone else. He does have that right to choose, and the fact that she tries to take that right from him and tries to force her family into shaming him for that is a problem.
How is that forcing? You're not forcing a family. And hey, listen, she did the same thing. She said, "You got a choice because this is the day I'm getting married. So what, right?" And he could have just said, "Okay," like y'all said, "Jesus, all right," because I can't make the family be okay with the decision I made, right? This is why I made that decision. It's that important to her, but I don't care what her reasons are. I'm not getting married on that date, and I can't make the world approve of my reasoning, and I can't make the family approve of my reasoning, and she can't either, nor should she be made to. Because at the end of the day, if the family looks down on you for a reason, for your reasoning, then who cares as long as you're comfortable with your reasoning. But if that's not good enough for you and you think that her family should approve of the reasons you make your decisions, you're not comfortable with that, then you should leave, right? I mean, like,
but don't you see that he originally, Ruby, the fact that, they had even decided this, he originally agreed to that date. But then when the issue with his mother came up or whatever, he was like, no, I don't want that date. But I think the reason he mentioned it in the letter, because is that he's thinking, and he wanted Char's advice that, okay, so we decided on this date, but then, we needed to change the date. But guess what? The date that she went behind my back and booked anyway happens to be the date of this, that, and the third. So why would she be so underhanded about it? It's like he's like, no, I don't want that date, because he originally agreed to it. What reason would he have to change it? We have some information here, but the information we don't have is why was that date so important to her? He is alluding to the fact that it was because she's supposed to marry this other dude that died, that she didn't break up with. He died. So he died with her loving him.
Mm-hmm.
He died with her loving him. So maybe she still loves him. So he's like, she would go against my words or an agreement, which we should agree on to have this date. Why is this date so important to her?
But and you brought up another point though, right? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. So if you're going to book venues and stuff, right? What do you have to do? You have to put down a deposit. Normally a non-refundable deposit. So if she was able to send out these wedding invitations, right? This probably, again, if we're going by the fact that he already knew the date, right? He knew the date because they had already picked the venues and picked the date that was available. Maybe he found out after the fact that this date was the previous wedding date. And that's what I think. I think he was fine with all of it. They put their deposits down, everything was good. And then someone in the family or someone heard the date and mentioned it. Oh, that's when you were gonna get married with so and so. And then
she was supposed to marry Eric on that day. Y'all getting married on the day she was supposed to marry Eric.
Exactly. and then he really, that's when he took issue with it. That's what I think really happened. But because here's the thing. You can't just turn around and go to these venues now, and say, oh, okay, well, so actually, even though it's a non-refundable deposit, can you just move my date to like the end of the season? Like that doesn't happen, right? So, or can you just move my date till next year? No, you're going to lose your deposit because your deposit is to hold that date. And their argument is they would have had 17 people booked for that date, but you've taken business away from them. So they're not giving you your money back. So either you follow through on that date or you lose the money.
It depends on how far it was. It depends on how far in advance it was, because, you know, if you are, you know, a certain amount of time, and sometimes that's written in the contracts. When you go and you put down your deposit, they do have the contracts, all the stipulations and cancellations and partial refunds and, you know, no refunds. You know, if you gave them enough time, you know, that they would have enough time to rebook that date, then you possibly could move your date to another date. My thing is that why do you want to have a party and the main person that's supposed to be at the party don't want to be there on that date?
He
And he
doesn't
didn't
want
to
the
be there for
date.
that date. Yeah, he doesn't want that date. Marry the man on the day that he wants you, chick. I mean, why does that have to be an issue?
Yeah, why do
Well,
you have to take issue with the date? That's
Well,
my.
this is
Here's the thing. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I get you, but there's another 364 days left. And if he's uncomfortable, which he has the right to be uncomfortable. You're like, you want to get married on the day that you were going to get married to someone else. I don't want that. And what, you know, it's kind of spooky. What's up with that? I mean, there's other dates, baby. Why can't we get married the weekend before or after or whenever? Well, I want this date or else. Well, or else then you go by yourself then.
Ooh, sis.
well, see, and the beauty of this, right, is you understand that if this is the way that she's dealing with this, when it comes
And it's
to a
just a
later
date.
time, when she can take the kids and half and child support, she's probably going to, you know, do underhanded things then. So, you know, you break my trust now. Bye.
Yeah,
Or
that's not. I
simple
don't think
stuff,
that
the
was
schools,
a good
just
look.
picking a school or a place to live. I mean, if you
Yeah.
having a problem with a date, I can't imagine
That's not a
anything else
good look.
bigger.
And she just blatantly just went against what he said. I mean, oh no, I want to change the date. You know, he didn't say, oh, that was the date you were supposed to marry Eric, so I don't want to get married on that date. He didn't even mention that. He's like, you know what, my mama, and I don't want to get married on that date because of my mama. And like I say, basically all I heard when she sent out them invitations anyway, forget your mama. This is the day I want to get married. And I just think that is rude and disrespectful.
No, Vonda, he mentioned the fact that this was the day that she was supposed to get married to Eric like 15 times in a letter. He mentioned his mom once. So let's be all the way 100 about what we hear him saying versus what we don't, right? But like, look, okay, I'm gonna be real here. I think we are all in agreement that this relationship should not be together, but I feel differently than y'all see. I feel like, you know what, girl, if he's so insecure that he would lose all those deposits, right, and everything like that over because, you know, your cousin let the ball drop, that was the day you're going to marry Eric, before even asking you, why was that day picked? Why is that significant? Why would you ever want to reuse it? Nothing. And you know how your man stays. So once he's made his mind up, he's not trying to hear nothing. Because I know a lot of guys who are like that. Once they made up their mind, they're not trying to hear you. So they don't care what your reasoning is. They're not going to ask you, nor do they want to hear what you're saying. And everything that you even try to say, you get two words out, they go, excuses. So there's no point on even trying to explain to them. And if he's that kind of guy, listen, girl, that's how life is going to be with him forever. And y'all clearly don't have the same set of communication and priority skills. Okay. You clearly are, even if it's a matter of you'll always have love in your heart for your, you know, the man who basically, you know, widowed you, or, you know, like, even if that's what it is, there are men out in the world who would be okay with that. Honestly, there are actually, and I've seen like TV shows and stuff that, you know, show those types of couples, and guys like, yeah, I know that, you know, that was her first love, and, you know, that's the love of her life, and blah blah blah, but, you know, I also know that we're very happy and blah blah blah, and I'm good with that, right?
But why
Some
should a man
people,
have to
sorry, go
play
ahead.
second fiddle? But why should a man have to play second fiddle to a ghost?
No, but he shouldn't have to. That's my point is this: some guys are content with that. Even if that's the reason, she wants the date, if that's the only reason, right? My point is, he's not good with that, right? But there will be a guy out there that would be good with that. You would actually be perfectly fine with the fact that, you know, that's the connection for you, and it would be okay. Because for some people, right, like, things are very symbolic, right? So it would almost be like you're closing the door on one chapter, starting, you know, another chapter. I've actually even literally heard that reasoning before. I had to dig it out of my brain because I don't think like that. But my point is that, you know, it's like, hey, I'm closing, you know, this date. It's like, everything's come around full circle. I'm ready to put everything to bed and move forward. For some people, you know what I mean? For some men like himself, right? He would be better off. Fine, you went through that period of time, but until you've been able to close the door in some other symbolic ways and move forward, right? He wouldn't be comfortable with that. It sounds to me like, as far as everything he said in the letter, it either she's not very comfortable talking to him about it, he's not very comfortable hearing about it, some combination of the two. But it seems like they don't have any type of discussion. Like, that man just does not exist.
She's hard-headed. That's the bottom line. That woman is hard-headed. She's hard-headed. I'm sorry, she's hard-headed. Because I'm sorry. There's not going to be any way around it. For me, in my mind, there's no way around it. Now, if she was marrying a broom, she could pick whatever day she wants to. That is a full-grown, live, flesh and blood man. And he told her undoubtedly, I don't want to get married on that day. And she needed to respect it. Ruby,
eventually. So that's what you said. Even from your own breakdown, but eventually he said it. After he got other information, then he said it. Right? So again, listen, I hear y'all, right? I'm not saying they should be together. I'm not saying he should try to make things work with her or change anything. What I'm saying is that this situation has clearly illustrated that they do not see the world in the same way. They are not in the same place. They're just not. So,
and this is not the 1950s. So it wasn't like her daddy was paying for the wedding. I'm sure at this point, the two of them are paying for the wedding. And who knows, he may be paying for the wedding. So, I mean, it's coming out of their pockets, or, I'm just going to say, because she's not she definitely ain't just sitting up there footing the whole wedding. Now, when I got married, we did pay for our own wedding. I didn't have parents be like, oh, I'm going to, pay for your wedding. That didn't happen. So my planning was very important because things had to be paid for, and I need to make sure that there was going to be money. So anything that I came up with, he was fine with. He was fine with anything I did. But if he came to me and he was like, you know what, I don't want that. I don't want that date. Well, baby, what date you want? I'm not going to be like, you know what? I'm doing everything. I'm going to send these out anyway. That's just, she just blatantly just went against it. Blatantly went against him.
My whole thing is this, and this is where I said, again, they have different priorities, because here's the problem, right? Is that if there's one day in the world that's really important, meaningful, significant to her, and he can only vaguely imply what that meaning might actually be to her. So he doesn't even care what the meaning is before he's shutting it down, because the reason why he doesn't want it really is because of the meaning it has to him. And that is the only thing, that is the only reason really why he's balking. To me, that is the issue, right? Now I understand to y'all that's not the issue, but to me that's the issue, because you're gonna shut something down that's actually important to me. I need this. This is one of my wants that is an absolute, and it's very important to me. And you're gonna shut it down flippantly, just say no. Who cares? Shut it down. Get rid of it. And without you even fully understanding it, not because there's another day that's more important to you. No, just because why you think it's important to me. I have an issue with that. Right now, with that being said, within my wedding, right? Like, there were things that were super important to my husband that he had. Now, I was more, hey, whatever he wants, if it's a super important thing, even if it goes against something that I had just had as my vague plan or as my vague want or whatever, I'm not going to say, yeah, but that doesn't fit into my vague wants, right? It's super important to you. So, okay, it's going to happen. Cool. Right. And I'm willing to give you the things that are super important to you that you want. I'm willing to give that to you. Right. Just like I'd be hoping that you'd be willing to give that to me. And it sounds to me like everyone here is hearing why it's okay for him to turn around and say, oh, on second thought, because that date is important to you, because I think this, well, then I don't want that date anymore. So let's lose our deposits. Let's lose everything. Screw that date, because now I don't want it anymore. Even though I was fine with the date originally, everyone's okay with that, right? But like, to me, I'm not okay with that. I think that that's like petty and mean and a little way too jealous for me. It really is. I don't know.
So let me be clear. You don't know I mean, you don't think that he wants to hear or even listen to her reasoning. Is that what you're
No,
saying about this date?
exactly. Yes. In fact, he said he never talked to her about it. He said he talked to like the cousin or something about it. He never spoke to her about it. And so the cousin said, right? And from what the cousin could surmise, is basically what he didn't even say like the cousin said he knew for sure. It was like, well, the cousin thinks, and so that's what I think too. So therefore, like, I mean, that's not a discussion. That's not you understanding something, which then, it further supports the idea that they picked the date. Everything was cool. Then someone told him what that date was about. Then he balked at the date. Then, right? So that's the problem. I think it's that same cousin. He's just tweaked the story a little bit for our benefit. The people reading it so he can get favorable responses, which he would have gotten no matter what he said, because, we know what space we're in. But, I think that's what it is. And then once that cousin said, oh, well, it's probably important because of this, then he balked at it. I don't think he ever had that discussion with her. He just came back with oh, hell no. You ain't going to tell me that this date was actually you and Eric's date? You're not even going to tell me that? You try to sneak it under the wild. Hell no, we ain't getting married on that day, girl.
Well, you know what?
I
agree with James. James had every right to balk at that date. If he originally agreed to it, and then he turns around and cousin Floyd says, "Oh, that's the day her and Eric were supposed to get married. He died." What? She didn't even mention that. It's like so funny that this is such an important day. Why would she not mention that?
Why is she keeping secrets?
It's weird. Yeah.
Well,
and
because
even if he's saying, I don't want to get married on that day because that's the day you were going to marry another dude that died, which means you were still in love with him when he died. I don't want to get married on that date. What's wrong with him saying that?
But because he didn't ask if that's the reason. My issue is not she told him that's the reason and then he balked. I think that, okay, could that give you pause? Could that give you a reason to go, yo, let's have a discussion about this right now then? Because you didn't tell me this or da-da. So let's sit down now and discuss it. And then he came with the results of that discussion. He didn't, because he never had that discussion. He put his foot down first and then said, well, the reason why I put my foot down is because here's all the implications I made. I must be right. Right. And you don't know. You don't know because you didn't talk to her.
Well, see, if I'm going into a marriage and someone is keeping secrets from me like that, big secrets like that, I shouldn't be married to him.
Well, there's one caveat to that, though. And he says it early in the letter. But it's like, okay, so I know she was engaged to some dude, who died. I know that happened. We don't talk about it. So I'm going to guess, right, that there's a 50-50 kind of mutual agreement here where he don't want to hear about it. And so she knows that, so she's not going to bring it to him, right? So they've already kind of decided that relationship, that man died, that anything about that's non, you don't bring that up. That's a non-starter for discussion here. So if you've already established that over years,
then why are you bringing it to a wedding date?
Yeah, but she didn't bring the discussion to the wedding date.
No, because if they agreed 50-50, right, that we don't bring that up, that relationship is in the past, we don't do things regarding that relationship and this relationship, you don't compare me to him. If we had this discussion, right, and you decide you're going to marry me on the date, you're going to marry him, you are in breach of contract.
Well, no, I'm not, because I didn't pick that date because of him. I picked that date and he allowed me to run with that date originally because, again, that was the day that my most beloved grandmother died from her long shot with a really terrible cancer. And it was the first day she opened her eyes after 6 months to look at me and say, I love you, mommy. And so therefore, I wanted to relive that day. Okay.
Where's James? James, I'm going to tell you, forget about her grandmama because she don't care nothing about your mama. Your mama's still here, James. I'm going to tell James to move on. James, just move on.
Listen, y'all. See, this y'all have all the sympathy in the world for James's potentially sick mom, but he just happens to know in 6 months is going to be too sick to be available for wedding. Yo, that's like when someone says, "Oh my God, I want to invite you to my house," and they say, "I'm sorry, I'm coming down with the flu that week." right? Like that's what it sounds like to me. You can't tell me you know she's gonna be too sick to be anywhere in 6 months unless she's like dying of something. And if you know she's gonna be dying of something in 6 months, you probably want to have the wedding as soon as possible. You don't want to delay it till next season. When you can build up more of the deposit and stuff like that, because you found out that this date now all of a sudden doesn't work for you. No, I'm sorry, because if it was surgery, you would have said surgery. Sickness is sickness. You know when someone is sick, that kind of sick, that they're going to be sick months in advance. You know that. Sorry. No. No. He knew that. In fact, that's why he agreed to the date. He agreed to the date because it was nice and soon. Okay. And so his mom, who is sick, is going to be able to make it because you don't know what the future is going to hold. That's exactly why he originally picked that date. 1,000%. Now he's willing to spite himself, to spite her for why he thinks she picked that date.
Shout out to Ruby Headcanon, people. Ruby Headcanon. That's a hashtag now.
I want to know, did the grandma open her eyes, that particular date, and she happened to be in the same hospital or near the morgue where the the fiance died, because that's a bit much now. If that's I understand you use that as an example.
A serious death day. Why I want to get married on the date that everybody died? No.
One opened the eyes, one died. That's a bit much.
His wedding is associated with death. A dead fiance, the dead grandmama. No, we need a happy anniversary day, baby.
I just used that.
I know.
Okay. Thank you very much. But my point was simply, right, is that again, a date can be very significant and meaningful to someone. It's like a random day, May 27th. Means nothing to you, me, or anyone else here, but it means something very big to someone else, right? Yeah. And so even if they had 5 weddings fall through and they had always planned on getting married on that date in general, like my cousin had a date like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, mind you. Right. But it was sometime in June. And she had a date like that. The date itself was special to her. Her fiance gave in to her wanting that date because he didn't really care anyway. Right. But then, the relationship.
I said, you're right, because men tend to not care. But
tend to not care. Right.
But when they do care, Ruby, don't you think it's significant, though? When they do care?
My point is simply this. Right. So her engagement now fell through. Right. She gets engaged to some other guy in 5 years. I know my cousin. My cousin is going to stay emotional, romantic, and all that bullshit until the day she dies. So she's probably going to want the same damn date. Why? Because it's going to hold the same significance to her in 5 years or 10 years or 50 years than it does right now. My issue is that you do yourself a disservice to assume it has anything to do with the fiance, when in my generalized experience, most of these things, most of the wedding details, have nothing to do with the fiance or even a special date to the relationship. Very little, right? Because normally people don't start dating on the same day that they get married, or they don't normally have anniversaries anywhere near the same day that they choose for a wedding, right? Normally that's not how it works. Normally, right? So 99.9% of this is the woman choosing for whatever her reasons are, and him saying, "Yeah, that works for me."
And you're right. That's true. I mean, like I said, I chose everything. It was my decision, and I was fine with that. But I would think that if he came to me and he was like, you know what, I don't want that date, I'd be like, you know what, I done made 101 decisions. I'll let you make this one decision. I'll compromise with you on that. I mean, you have to think about it. It's just one date. Let the man have his date. Let's start our marriage out happy.
Okay, but you the reason why you're saying that it's just the date, who cares? It's because you didn't pick a date that was already significant to you. You picked a date probably because of the season, the venues that you wanted were available that day. The weather's probably going to be nice around that time, right? Like the date itself wasn't that important. Like the actual literal date on the calendar was not that important. It's the only importance it was going to have is it was going to be now going forward your anniversary, right? But what if you picked a date for a different reason, a reason that was actually important to you? So a lot of the wedding is just work. It's a lot of time consuming, stress invoking work. But that was one thing that was really important to you because it actually was special and meaningful to you. So you picked the date not because you had to pick a date that was good in the right season, this and that. It was actually meaningful to you anyway. Outside of weddings, that day has always been meaningful to you.
It's meaningful, all right. She's like, oh, I always wanted to be married on June 11th. And I can always think that was the day I was going to get married the first time, and that didn't work out. But I got married on that date the next time. Yeah, child, I enjoy that date. Yeah, that could be in her history book. That's what she would like to say. But I will ask you, since you mentioned the significance, what will be a woman's significance as far as a date of getting married?
What do you mean? Like, as far as
June
like
8th instead of June 11th. What is
okay,
that?
so like, well, I will say this, right? So like to me, I literally was looking at weather patterns and stuff. I didn't pick a date that was especially relevant or significant to me in any way. I was trying to work between other people's weddings and the weather and all kinds of stuff.
Weather,
Historically, it's never
okay.
rained on that Saturday in the last 50 years. Like I was looking for emotional stuff, right? I'm not super emotional that way. But like it could be, and like I said, it could be connected to the last good time when your whole family was together before your father died. I mean, like, and actually, I did say that one because it popped into my head as being an anniversary that my family kind of celebrated after my uncle died, because he was the first kind of person in our like tight little knit family that died, and he kind of died like too early. He died at like 42. His kids were like 6 and 5 or something, 6 and 4. And it was the first time my family had gotten together in forever. And it was kind of like, oh, we all felt like it was going to be a new beginning and blah, blah, blah. And then like within less than 2 months, he was dead. And so it's kind of like we did actually get together all on that weekend for a good while. Not to, celebrate the man's death, because that happened a little while later, but to celebrate like the last happy time we were all together, and so we could all feel his presence, kind of thing, right?
Oh,
So
okay. So with that being said, I like the way you explain that. So it's we all together and celebrating the last time we all was together. Why can't we have a picnic on that date, and the family can get together and we all can celebrate because that was the last time? But 3 days later, which is going to be on the Saturday, we're going to get married, me and James. So we got 2 events coming up. How about that?
to be
I
honest
mean,
with
if they're
you,
in town for the picnic, right?
no, but to me, neither of my
Yeah.
parents are dead for me to be able to, truly. And again, I'm not super emotional or superstitious, for that matter, right? But like people believe that these things have significance. These particular dates, or these particular situations, scenarios, events actually have a deeper holistic significance. Like this only happens that one time a year. This only happens when all of these scenarios are perfect, right? So again, I can't personally relate because I don't really have any of that in me. But I've seen people who are really like super convinced that this kind of stuff is true, right? And so for them, they would feel like, oh, well, that person's spirit's only here on that day, or this, that can only really happen if this. So, like I've seen people wait a year or two for a particular date to fall on the weekend because that's the date that they want to get married because of blah, 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 blah. And they think that's good luck for the marriage. I've seen people do things that's near
Oh,
asinine.
well,
You
I'm
know
going
what?
to tell
I
you
think
what,
I should get
then.
married on February 29th. That way I only have to celebrate my anniversary once every 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah,
That's
and check
smart.
it out.
That's smart. But no, I like again, I can't say, right? I can't say that, I can't fight it as far as like I would die on, this limb, because I wouldn't, because I don't care about almost any of this, right? Like I don't personally care, but I just see women, especially around certain things like births and marriages, especially, become like these completely different types of people that suddenly these types of things have so much significance and matter so much and are so deep and so meaningful and so significant. Even like that door opening and closing crap, right? Like I've heard so many people say that, right? That is, they got to do something on this date so that way the cycle's closed or whatever. Or otherwise, their psychic told them that blah, 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 blah. I've heard people believe so much bullshit. That to me is complete and utter bullshit, right? But they truly believe it. So if they really believe it, right? And this is where, again, I think that there's a factor of maturity there. But, you know, people who believe stuff like this don't think it's about maturity or immaturity. They just think it's about me being too, you know, grounded in sciencey and not having my third eye open or whatever, right? And then they have their third eye open, so they just see the world in, you know, the 6 dimensions it really is. And I
poke
don't see
people
it.
in their third eye.
I bet you do too.
Well, I'm gonna tell that bride. I got something to tell. I'm gonna tell her that if all that, you know, if it's very significant, that date, then she should just wait for the next cycle then, and wait for the next man. And when she meet him and say, hey, this particular date is important to me, and if we ever get married, this will be the date. What do you think about it? And then that'll be up front, as weird as it is. But hey, she discussed it, and maybe the guy will go along, and she'll have no surprises. She don't have to
Yeah.
sneak behind his back and send out
Turn
any
the entire family
invitation.
against him.
Yeah, because it made him look like the bad guy.
And
And
she was okay with him looking that way. That's the problem that I have, because my thing is that, you know, I would not, I don't want my family to, you know, like be against my man. You know, I don't, and basically, like, you know, Chandra was saying, you know, it was like in an effort to kind of like shame him, you know, like, oh, you know, you need to stick with that day. Why are you being so insecure, you know, and all of that. And it's like, he spoke, that man spoke. He spoke. He said, I don't want that date. And damn it, he shouldn't have to get married on that day if he doesn't want it.
I don't know how y'all's families work, but like y'all clearly don't know Mama Ruby, because it doesn't matter how I tell her when I originally tell her a story. If I call her to tell her what a horrible person I am, by the end of the conversation, everyone else is a demon but me. And I'm being real, right? So I don't know about y'all, but I know when it comes to my family tends to work like that. So basically, it doesn't matter how wrong. I could start off the story by saying, oh my God, I did a horrible thing. I'm so bad. I knew better. I never should have done it. And it doesn't matter what I say. Once I explain it, whatever third parties are in that story are horrible people. And I am a great, innocent, you know, victim. It doesn't matter how much I try to correct it.
Girl.
That's not very healthy.
Of course not. But that's how some families
that explains
are.
your headcanon, though. That explains your headcanon. It's inherited.
No, it's just the way that actually I see it a lot in general, not just like with my family. I see that in general with families where, you know, there's the outsiders and then themselves. And even if they fight like cats and dogs and they hate each other, generally, when it comes to themselves versus any type of outsider, you know, the outsider is the person who's always going to be in the wrong. And whoever's in their family, no matter how wrong they are, somehow is going to be vindicated in their eyes. So, I mean, I don't blame her for how the family perceive him and his actions or whatever, because I don't think that there's a whole lot that she could have done, especially given the situation of they're getting married, picking a date, these things are important, blah, 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 that he wouldn't have ended up looking like, you know, the enemy, short of her having not sent out the invitations to begin with, right? So I don't blame her for their perception, because I think that would be the perception that the average family would have.
How hard would it have been for her to say, he's the one who chose to postpone it, ask him?
Okay, but if she said that, then that would still make him the devil. Do you not understand that? There's nothing.
Exactly, because he could have a reason for it, and then they call him and say, "Hey, what's up? Why are you postponing? My mom's sick."
Or what about none of your business?
I don't think he owes them any type of explanation. I mean, it's like at the very least, the people that you're inviting, you know, to the wedding, it is a privilege to be invited to a wedding, because you're basically sharing in, you know, someone else's love and their unity and all of that. So it's not like, you know, you as a guest, you have rights to sit up here and come question me about why I made a change, to my wedding. Get out of my
Mhm.
face.
No, and you're absolutely right? But this is my whole point. If she said, I didn't change it, he did. As soon as she says it wasn't me, then they're going to have the same perception. That's my point. So I think really, yes, you're right. Short of her saying absolutely nothing, but if it's not within her character, not to talk about her feelings and her issues and her blah, 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 because she's one of those, emotional word vomit types of people, well, then, I mean, there's nothing she could have said, even if it was her crying about how wrong she was, that isn't going to end up with the broken telephone game ending in him being a demon. So I don't blame her for that part. I do blame her for sending the invitations regardless. I do blame her for that, obviously. And I do think, like I said, it was an immature move. But I think some human beings are very immature. And, I don't think that these two human beings belong together. For that reason alone, is that they're not on the same level. They're just not. They don't think the same. They haven't had the same experiences in life, obviously. They don't have the same priorities in life, obviously. They don't even have the same. I know this is going to sound a little bit messed up, but in general, I find, and I hear this happen a lot, when someone has little to no support system, and then the other person has this giant, massive support system of friends and family, that can, I mean, sometimes that can be nice, and this person gains this whole family and gains a support system. But more often than not, I find that the opposite is true. And now it's just like this entire giant team against little old him. And he doesn't have, a whole team in his corner to be kind of, doing the same thing. He doesn't have a team even for him to be venting to and talking to things about it. So he'll even see just that communication completely differently than she will. Which is why, when it comes to someone like her, she seems like she's probably a little younger, but definitely more immature. She needs to find someone who likewise has a big support system, needs to vent out their feelings, has a very immature kind of flighty way of seeing the world, and they'll be happy. And he needs to find someone who's a little bit more grounded, a little bit more serious, a little bit more mature when it comes to things. Because one way or the other, no matter who you're blaming in the scenario, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't. They cannot be happy together. They can't. This is just like, the wedding day is not a marriage. It is literally like the party before the marriage. And it's like the easiest thing. It's the easiest part of the marriage is the wedding day. If they can't get to the wedding day, without being in this position, what the hell are they going to do when day one of marriage starts? Day one of child rearing starts.
That brings to mind that, I know Char is a person of solutions. So if there was a way to save this relationship, Char, how would you save it?
Save it. Let's see if it can be saved. Well, I have a lot of other questions. It's a lot of missing information as far as how long did they see each other? When she was supposed to get married? Was it less than a year, 2 years? It's so many different questions I need answers to in order to, go forward. I could throw some stuff out there and just say, as far as the level of togetherness, the fact that she didn't come up with a way to say we instead of him gives me pause for them to get married.
And I would also venture to ask the question, James, if you're listening, I would like to know, is this the first time she's pulled something like this? If they've been dating or been together for any type of, amount of time, we're going to say, let's say a year, maybe 2 years. This cannot be the first time she's pulled a stunt like this, because this is truly a stunt.
So what you're saying, Vonda, is that it's likely in her personality to be pulling this kind of slick shit where she thinks she can get it by under the radar or have her way.
Yep.
Well, if that's her base personality, you really don't want to deal with that, because guess what? She's gonna have her way with the kids. You're gonna say, hey, don't name the kid after me, 'cause I want that kid to have his own legacy, and the kid's gonna be a junior.
James Jr. You're like, wait a minute, didn't I just say don't name him James Jr.? Well,
I just put it on the birth certificate.
I'll take Junior off. We'll just name him James. Won't be a junior.
Yeah, but like this is see to me now though, right? Because I see the other side of the equation. Whereas I'm sorry, maybe y'all are good with that general arrangement, but to me, I've never been really super great with people who are like my way or the highway. What I say goes. What I think is right is right, and I don't really care to negotiate once I've made up my mind to do. Keep going, Chandra. I see what you're doing over there. But no, I'm sorry. I'm just not good with that generalized like mentality, whether it comes from the man or the woman. I'm not good with that generalized mentality overall. And I feel like he is exactly that kind of person. And like I said, the reason why I feel that way is because if he had said I had a conversation with her, then I would think to myself, no, he's the kind of guy who listens to his mate or his significant other, so that way he can hear her, whatever, and at least weigh and evaluate what she has to say before making up his mind about something. But I don't think he ever gets that far. I don't think he's that kind of guy. And I have an issue with that kind of guy as well, because I think overall that it shows very, very little trust, respect, in your spouse. I think it would show, a level of immaturity as well, that you can't sometimes hear things that you don't agree with and compromise. So I mean, overall, I get that exact same feeling from him. And so when you've got someone who's like that, it's not a good way for him to be. But then you get a girl like her who says, okay, well, since he's going to be like that, then everything that I want, I'm just not going to ask for permission, right? I'm going to ask for forgiveness. I'm just going to keep sneaking my slick shit in here and there, because I know if I ask him for permission, he's always going to say no, because, he wants things his way or the highway.
That's
and so to me,
waiting to happen. That is a divorce waiting to happen.
Exactly.
But really, I mean, let's just look at, the full picture here. You say that he gives off vibes of it's my way or the highway type of guy. And I'm going to say, I don't think a man who that's his his model, my way or the highway, is going to be writing a letter about this. He going to put his foot down, say it's my way or the highway, and that's going to be all she wrote. Yeah. I do not think that he is it's my way or the highway, but with this particular situation, at some point, this man has got to put his foot down, or he's going to end up wanting to put his foot in her behind, because she's going to keep doing things like this.
But he didn't write a letter. He wrote a post. And see, this is why I said we know where we're at. And so I've noticed that people write things and post them in this space so that way they can get a particular response or reaction, because that's why they're here, to get particular responses and reactions from, a segment of the population. So this is why, again, I am, I guess, maybe biasing the way that I see everything and everything that I heard to that extent. But he didn't reach out and say, you know what, guys, listen, I'm not sure. Should I forgive her and move forward, whatever? I think he just wanted he wanted the outside justification to do what it is that he already did, which is basically say, yeah, screw this girl. There's never going to be no wedding. I said postpone to be nice, but screw this, right? Which is what he was thinking anyway. What he wanted is the world. He wanted the justification from everyone else. And yeah, see, she would basically what we're saying to an extent, right? But he just needed he wanted the outside pats on your back for what he's going to do.
I'm going to have to disagree with the Ruby headcanon. There's a high chance that he wrote the post, which is not a letter. Ruby is correct about that. But it's the same damn principle. He's looking for input from other people as to how he can potentially save what could be his marriage. If he had wanted to get rid of her, he'd have gotten rid of her. Done.
Yeah, period. I think so. I think he would have put his foot down and be like, no, I'm later for this. I told her I didn't want that date, and she went out and did it anyway. Oh, hell no. So he's trying to figure out how to deal with this.
Okay.
But so, you know what? It's not a letter, so hey, you know what?
No, but I'll give y'all that. Fine. He wanted input from his fellow men. But again, a lot of times, I don't know if y'all have ever dealt with, as women, if y'all ever dealt with someone who thinks that way. But if you are a man who might value the opinions of other men and input of other men, that doesn't necessarily mean that you value the input of women, because you might not see that women have any valuable input to add. If you think that way, which some do, right?
What?
My way or the
What?
highway guys tend to think that way.
Oh,
My way or the
Sorry.
highway guys tend to think that way.
Sorry.
That,
I think I might need to take some Benadryl.
uh-huh. Because I'm brand new. Was it born last night, sir? But no, I'm just saying, what, you disagree? There are not men who think that way, that other men might have some valuable opinions and insight to give, but they don't think that women do. They don't actually respect women. They think that relationships with women should be their way or the highway.
Where did that come from?
I don't think
Where?
I don't
Where
think
did the feminist, these men don't respect women, come from?
Well, some men don't respect women. So I just say some men
I
don't.
think James respects women. He respects women. I don't think he's proven not to be respectful. I think so.
James has proven himself to be a demon who doesn't give a damn about what she feels about the date. He doesn't respect women. My God, Ruby headcanon.
When did
This
I say
James is a
James has proven
badass.
himself to be a demon? Oh no, absolutely not. I just said that her family is, of course, going to be biased in her favor because they're her family and her friends. So of course they're going to be biased in her favor. Unfortunately, he doesn't have people on his side because the only person he really has is his mom. So he doesn't have a whole team of people who are going to be biased against her for some ballots.
Ruby, even more reason for him to want the date, because he wants the one family member that gave birth to him to be there. And she just said, you know what, forget your mama. We're going to have this wedding on this date, the date that me and Eric are supposed to get married. Yes.
just happened to be.
See, but again, the whole thing is y'all saying, just like he assumed, is the reason why is because that was meaningful to her and Eric. Not the reason why her and Eric had that date is because it was already meaningful to her. We don't know that though, and that's my issue. He didn't ask her. He never asked her, because if he did, he would have said, she said. I asked her about it and she said this. He said, I asked the cousin about it and the cousin said this, which is very different than you going directly to your significant other to have a conversation. Now, this is problematic on both sides. Obviously, he's not asking her directly, right? She's not just talking to him. They're giving information, having discussion with outside people and not each other. And this is why, to me, again, the whole relationship is doomed. Like the relationship is heading to divorce and they're not even married, which is why they should never get married, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Well, she definitely thinks too much of I. And he wanted to do,
I. Sorry.
yeah, I wanted to sing that song, I, been around the world. But I don't know. That sticks out to me.
I'm sorry. Wherever James is, I'm gonna tell James, you know what, James? You just have to let little shorty go. Let it go. Don't with this stunt that she pulled, I would push it a year. I said, you know what, we will not be getting married this year. No time, no way. We're gonna push it to next year. And we will work, and maybe if we feel like this is salvageable, we'll get counseling to see, how we could have handled this better if we still want to be together. But I'm not marrying you no time this year.
No, why would you push it? That's my whole thing. You don't push something like this. Like if you listen to everything, right? It doesn't matter that y'all all disagree with me or not, right? It actually doesn't, because again, we all have the same bottom line vision of this, right? Whether you're saying it from the male or the female side, you don't have respect you don't really have trust. You don't have communication, right? You don't have each other's backs. There's the support level, the maturity level. Like, I mean, I don't think personally, to be honest with you, I don't think personally that she's even in a place where she should be getting married to anybody right now. Because I don't see how you could have such a significant person in your life who meant a lot for so many years, and then you get together with someone and like you're able to just be like, nope, doesn't matter. That's it. They just don't exist anymore. Period. The end. Because it's different. It's not like you broke up with them, and so then you had to go through all that breakup stuff to get to the end and whatever. Like this person died. So it's kind of like you were the last people in each other's lives, and boom, dead. I don't see how you get to that place and then half of your growth is with this other person that you're now with. But nope, I'm never going to open my mouth and never going to say anything about this. I have no interest in directly confronting you. I have no interest in directly anything. I don't think she's in the place to get married anyway.
Well, what I will say about that is let's take some a-hole corner headcanon, right? Let's say that they started this relationship fresh, right? This is where their relationship started off, and then she tells him, yeah, my ex died, and we're about to get married, and I hope you're okay with that. And then they go for the first couple of dates, right? And he orders a steak, and he orders his steak rare. Oh my God, Eric used to order the steak rare. And they go for a couple more dates. They go in the hay, and oh my God, Eric used to hit it that way. And
God.
they drive in, and he takes a right turn, even though she wanted him to go left. Oh my God, Eric used to do the exact same thing, and he's like, you know what? We don't need to talk about Eric no more.
Mm-hmm.
And they come to that agreement because they realize it's unhealthy for their relationship, for her to continue living in the past.
Right.
Okay.
Let's make this the headcanon right now. And then she pulls this shit.
Okay. But see, my whole issue is even what you just said, right? So the issue, right? She stopped talking about it, but that's still the place where she is mentally and emotionally. She just stopped opening her mouth to say it, right? Because when you have that type of discussion, like you don't sit there and constantly talk about your dead spouse or your dead ex-fiance or whatever. You don't constantly talk about, someone who's passed away. If you do, and you're still in that kind of obsessed phase or obsessed stage, you're not emotionally in the place where, you're ready to emotionally move on. So just because you shut up about it, you don't talk about it anymore, doesn't mean you're not still in that totally emotionally unhealthy place. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you normally will have like maybe one or two deeper discussions, at the right moment later on in the relationship after you've grown some trust, where you have deeper discussions about, this person who passed away and what they meant to you in different parts of their life and blah, blah, blah. And you kind of have that, right? It's like an opening up moment. It's a sharing moment. You're sharing something that you experienced and went through, and you're, being honest and open about, certain emotions. Like, yeah, you always have, piece of your heart that loves that person because, they're taken so suddenly and whatever, and then you talk about the growth you did and blah, 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 right? Like, you don't sit there and either constantly talk about it to the point where you have to be told, like, bro, if this is what you keep doing, I don't want to see you, right? Or you just never talk about it. Like, to me, that's not showing a lot of emotional and mental health.
I'm just saying, if we throw out this headcanon right here, there probably was something like this that happened where he got to the point where he got sick and tired of the comparisons. And when the cousin came up and told him what was going on, he didn't, he's like, oh, this is what it is? Nah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if that's how it happened, then yeah, that's the whole problem, right? She never emotionally, again, shutting up doesn't mean that she fixed it internally, mentally, and emotionally. She's over it now, right? She just didn't want to lose this guy, so fine, I just won't say anything to him. We don't know what else, normally if that's the case, then she's saying it to her friends, her family, she's saying it to everyone else when he's not around. She doesn't want to bother him. But doesn't mean that, oh, well, now she's moved on. She's emotionally healthy. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think that she's in the place where she's emotionally and mentally healthy enough really to be moving forward and becoming anyone's wife. Like, she's not in that place. So I don't think honestly that postponing the marriage is going to help. And the reason why I don't think that postponing the marriage would help, even with counseling and whatnot, is you kind of already have established a bunch of unhealthy parameters in this relationship. She has specifically. So when I'm talking about her not being able to get better, she's already established all these unhealthy ways of dealing with life while she's with him. She's not going to be able to change that if she stays with him. Just like a cheater, right? Once a cheater, always a cheater. Well, no, a cheater can start dating someone new and never cheat on them. But they'll probably keep cheating on you if you taught them that that's how things should be with each other, right? So I kind of see it the same way. Like, I think that his best bet would be for him to say, okay, you postponed it, you quietly uncouple your lives, move forward. Because one way or the other, regardless, even if y'all are right, and he's just the greatest guy in the world, never done anything wrong, blah, 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 she's not going to be at the place now or anytime soon, I don't think, for her to be a good wife and, emotionally healthy and kind of, fixed, shall we say. And I don't think she can ever really be that with him because she's already established herself as being like this with him. I don't think that it's really going to get better.
I agree. Ruby, thank you for giving this guy the benefit of a single doubt.
I mean, realistically, and I guess that's the thing, right? I mean, y'all are really giving her a benefit of a doubt because you don't hear it that way. You're not seeing it that way. You're using your own life experiences to, highlight the story and see it. I'm doing the same thing. I'm hearing and picking up and seeing a bunch of other things. That's all.
But I'm paying, what you're saying, I'm going in your direction. And that's why I was asking, well, what date will be so significant? I mean, what happens in your life? So when you mentioned maybe the grandmother died or something, or maybe an uncle or something, I'm like, okay, well, if they all got together and that was the last time on that date, then you can still celebrate that date, because if she wasn't dating this guy and wasn't going to, didn't know anything about this guy, that date is available. What was she going to do? So why do you have to get married on that date? You can celebrate that date with a picnic or whatever, a seance or whatever you want to do, whatever you got going on. But why does it have to be a wedding? I do with my new spouse. So that's why I'm saying, what could it be? Why is this date so significant? And that's fine.
And why doesn't he know about the significance?
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's my thing, because in general, right? I mean, this is just in general, but when people hold a date like that important because of the spouse or the fiance that passed away, that's normally exactly what they do. They keep on celebrating it on their own. It's their own little private day. And they pretend that they're not celebrating it. But, if you follow them around that day, that's what they're actually doing. They pretend they're going to go to the spa when really they go to the hill where they first met and cry or whatever, right? So to me, it seems kind of like you wouldn't, if the only significance of that date was the fact that you were supposed to get married to Eric, but Eric died on that day. I don't see why you would want to get married on that date. That's why I guess to me there must be an additional significance to it that we're unaware of. Well, and really that he's unaware of. Why does he not know? Again, and this is to me, it comes down to the immaturity thing again. It comes down to trust. Obviously, it comes down to broken communication. Obviously, because I don't think he knows very much. Right. And I'm not blaming him for that. I'm saying I don't think he knows very much. I think that probably until this situation happened, he probably thought that she was relatively uncomplicated. Right. She probably presented herself as being relatively uncomplicated, which a lot of people do when they are trying to get to a particular place in a relationship, namely marriage. Right. I think that this is probably I don't think that she's been doing this again and again and again and again, and he's been facing it, because I don't think he would have proposed to her and gotten to this place. I honestly
Right.
don't.
And
Right. So
that's
I
what
think
I'm
it's
thinking too. Yeah.
right. I think it's a lot more likely that he thought she was relatively uncomplicated, right? There were relatively little to no problems in the relationship. And this kind of, he's stopping going, wait, oh my God, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. I'm glad he did postpone it because whatever the issue is, whether it's something psychological, okay, well, time for her to get some help. And again, if that date is so important to be married, she has the right to get married on that date, just not to James. He has the right to say no. If this date means that much to you, I have to accept that and I am going to walk away because I'm not getting married to that date. Sorry what happened with you and Eric. God bless you. I'm out. And that's okay. And hopefully one day before she dies, she'll get married on that date.
Yeah, and I actually think about this now. You ever been in one of those? Well, I know a lot of guys can probably deal with this. They come home. The girl's in a real pouty mood. She's just pouting all over the place. Hey, baby, what's wrong? Well, she either says nothing or, well, you should know. And at that point, you're stuck there trying to figure out what's wrong, and then she never tells you. And then, the mood goes away. And then, you ask 2 days later, and you ask, hey, what was wrong the other day? And then she gets back into a mood because she remembers what she was feeling at that moment. And then you don't broach the subject again because you realize that you're getting nowhere because she doesn't want to communicate. Hey, baby, what's wrong? Hmm, that doesn't tell me anything.
you don't read you don't read them sounds. You don't get it.
See, those sounds are nice for telling me you're alive, but they don't give me the information I need to solve the problem. Because see, we as guys, we like to solve the problem,
Right.
and it almost seems like in this case she wouldn't let him solve the problem.
Well, conversation need to be had, but I will still, if for James, I would still keep my foot on the ground as far as that date. I'm like, no, that's not going to be my date. That could be your date, and that's
Yeah.
like I said, she has a right. If that date is so significant to her, she should have that. Girl, I wish you the best. Maybe I'll bump into you one day and you'll be married on that date. If it don't work out, then I'll catch you maybe in an old folks home. How about that?
Well, see, and that's the whole thing, though, Char. Like, the whole problem is the lack of communication, direct communication between the two of them. It seems like, if anything, they've communicated more to everyone except for each other. They basically, she said, I want the date. He said, I don't. Okay. They didn't, clearly, they don't have a real open line of communication with each other. And if you can't communicate, your real wants, your real needs, if you can't turn around and say, hey, listen, we're really at a standstill here. We really disagree. Let's sit down and break this thing all the way open so we can come to a level of mutual understanding and respect and a compromise, a decision. Right? I mean, they clearly don't have the skills with each other to do that. And if you can't do that with something as simple, again, as the wedding, and I'm not saying a wedding is simple, it's not, it's complicated and annoying and stressful, right? But when it comes to your marriage, it is the most simple part of marriage. It's the most simple part of building a legacy and raising a family and rearing children and making decisions for their well-being and all of that. Like, it's the most simple thing, and they can't communicate with each other. So if they're not communicating and they're not able to communicate, even if it's out of fear of one person's response, let's say, there's someone did a video a few weeks ago, and the video was asking exactly what's wrong. And, she said nothing. And then he knew clearly something was wrong. So he tried to push the issue, and she said, could you not talk to me right now? And he said, oh, you don't want me to talk to you? Okay, let me out of the car. And then he kept pushing to be let out of the car. And then she went, okay, fine, get the hell out then, and pull over the car. Now he gets out of the car and she drives away and then comes back. And it's like, okay, he was right. Clearly something was wrong, right? Was she being immature? Absolutely. Should she have communicated with him? Absolutely. Even if the communication is, I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Can you just give me a few minutes to myself first? Right? There's a way to even speak to people to tell them you're not ready to talk. Right? So you see immaturity, then he's demanding, let me out of the car instead of just get home first and then get out of the car and don't talk to her. Is that a little bit ridiculous? Yeah. Is it ridiculous she actually pulls over and then tells him, get the hell out of the car? Yeah. Right? So these are two people who can't communicate with each other. Right? And you ask her, and she's going to say, well, he's the one who asked to be let out of the car. And he's going to say, well, she's the one who pulled over and told me to get the hell out of the car. Yeah, okay, this whole entire scenario is ridiculous. And if you can't communicate with each other about something as simple as your mood, then why are you staying together? When, like, how I feel today, like how you doing today, that's like the beginning of a conversation. That's not the deep stuff. That's not the difficult stuff. That's not the nitty gritty. That's the easy stuff. Like, if you can't do the easy stuff, then you have no business trying to do the hard stuff.
Well, this definitely is the easier stuff. I do agree.
Mm-hmm.
But stabbed him in the back. Send the invitations out. Gee.
You know.
Dang.
You know, I hate when they do that.
Yes. All the time. All right.
You know, there's only so much you can argue about the point, and I think that maybe both of them are a little bit in the wrong, but in the whole corner, I'm gonna say that two wrongs don't make a right, but three rights make a left, and two rights set up for a straight. I don't know, whatever it is, they got to figure this out.
Well, Chandra, may I ask you what was he wrong about? Where was he wrong at? What could he have done better?
I'm giving the possibility of him being wrong, and the reason why I say that is for him being wrong by taking the word of the cousin and not confirming it with her, or not giving the information that he confirmed that with her. Because that's an area where he could have communicated better. He heard from the cousin, and if he had said, then I spoke to her about it and she confirmed it was true. So at this point, he's probably going off a hearsay, even if the hearsay is 99.9% accurate. If he hasn't communicated with her about that, that's where he could be in the wrong. I'm giving him the possibility of being wrong. To give Ruby, that little, you got to give Ruby a little bit, right? Can't just take everything.
Oh no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I will sit here by myself in my corner alone. Okay.
Wow.
No, you know what? Listen, I think it just comes down to having. Maybe it's just how many weddings I directly experienced, either myself, personally, being right up as a maid of honor or the bridesmaids, planning them and whatever, that colored my opinion slightly, right? And so because I attached a bunch of stuff to what did and didn't happen and to what he said and what he didn't say, right? That is what, to me, gave him a persona. And so, and probably because I connect that persona to particular personas that I find maybe distasteful, that probably is making me biased 100%. I will give you all the fact that I am overall biased. I am. I'll give you all that.
What? Yeah. Wait a minute.
Ooh, yeah. I didn't have to take my Benadryl for that one.
Amazing, isn't it? No, I'll give y'all the fact that I'm overall biased, right? But I'm explaining to y'all how I hear him and how I'm seeing him, and then reading her behavior in the context of that persona, right? So if he's a relatively, good guy, understanding, try to be supportive, try to be this, try to be communicative, right? And all of the shutdown and all of the breakdown in communication is coming from her. Well, then I have a different perspective. I don't see him that way. I don't. I know. I don't know.
And I just think that there are times when if a man's role is protection, provision, there are times when he's gonna have to put his foot down, and she's not gonna like what he has to say, but he's gonna put his foot down. And it's gonna be for the betterment of the entire family.
I agree. I do think that ultimately, right, since I believe men should be the head of the household, therefore, I do also think, obviously, that veto power, that putting your foot down power, whatever, right, holds to the head of the household. But now, with the caveat to that, right, is that if the head of the household is doing his job, he's not just vetoing everything she says because it's not his immediate thought, his immediate feeling, his immediate direction, right? Because that's why bother having a wife. You have a wife, and she gives her feedback, she gives her input, she gives her voice, she gives her opinion, she gives her feeling. And it's important, again, communication, because if she's not giving all of that and she's not giving him a full story or full context or full picture, then he can't make a fully informed decision, which it sounds like they did not have a fully informed conversation for him to have made a fully informed decision on either side. I don't think they really, like I said, deeply had that discussion. But, if she's giving that and he's just vetoing it and he's ignoring her altogether, then, why be married? Right? Because I don't know about anyone else. I just don't see what the purpose is of being in a marriage if it's going to work that way, where the man is always dismissed or the woman is always dismissed, because I don't think the point of marriage is to dismiss each other. I think the point of marriage is to support and inform each other, and respect and love each other. And part of respecting and loving is hearing each other out and using that information that comes from them to inform your decisions and your choices.
Now, I'm going to drag it back to the a-hole corner because I have to. I think that a lot of people are in relationships that they don't need to be in because they're lonely and desperate, and because they'd rather have somebody else there who they can't talk to and have a body there than, be alone at night.
True. I 1,000% agree with that one.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a swan dive out this window.
Make sure you open it first.
Right. Don't rip up that screen. It's expensive to replace. Right. But no, I do think that a lot of people, I think it depends. The older you get, the more you think you kind of have to settle, especially as a woman, maybe because I think men have less of a time pressure on them. If you want to have kids and you haven't had kids yet as a man, you can have kids forever. But do you really want to be having your first kid at 72? Probably not, right? You don't get a lot of time with them in that case. But I'd say overall, I think that women, as we get older, especially once we are over 30, 35, we've never been married, we haven't had any children, never walked down that aisle, never said I Jews, whatever. We start getting to that place where we just want to find anybody who will take us there. And we think about the logistics of can I understand this is a touchy word, y'all, but can I submit to this man? Do we even share similar values, opinions, beliefs? Do we see our lives heading in a similar direction? Do we have similar goals and stuff like that? And they dismiss all of that because it's kind of well, got to get down the aisle. I have all these things I got to tick off first. I got to get to the marriage and then drop a bunch of kids and I can convince him later, right? People change all the time after marriage is what people think for some reason. No one changes in a positive way. Right? But they think that. And so they're kind of almost when you're like 20, you want to find magical love and someone who just, you agree on so many things with it, blah, 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 and we're going to be perfect. But I think the older you get, you can fall into that trap where you start thinking like, who cares about all of that? The point is, I got the ring on my finger, someone to walk down the aisle with me. All right, let's go do this thing first, and I'll worry about those other little details later.
Mm.
And I've seen that, unfortunately, a lot. And I mean, when you don't see it now, I mean, honestly, I'll say it's happening less now than was like maybe 10 years ago. But like then 10 years ago, the advent of marrying yourself started. So you kind of, have your own wedding day by yourself and everything is yours. And then, you find a good sperm donor in the catalog and, unfreeze your eggs and you're good, right? So, I mean, there's less of a rush. If you don't want to be able to compromise with someone, you don't care about those details, you just want to hit those markers, there are options. You can marry yourself. You can have children on your own these days. So, I mean, you can do that too.
Well, interesting. I wonder, do people like that send invitations out? Interesting.
Yes, they do, Shar. They have whole weddings.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yes.
Right? Well, it's not as crazy as that woman who married a tree, or the other woman who married her dog. So
Yeah. Well, if I marry myself, do I get 2 sets of gifts?
That's a good question.
Do you keep the same last name? How do you do that?
How do you marry an inanimate? Like, how do you marry a tree? Not like I think it's okay for you to marry a dog. Hold on. But how do you marry a tree? Where was the tree?
Google.
Seriously?
All you need is a justice of a peace or a priest willing to marry you, and in certain areas it's probably legal.
Wow.
Give them a few bucks and a drink.
I hear they marry anything in Vegas, right?
Dude. I mean, I did hear about, the guy who is engaged to his sex doll, right? I mean, at least it was like kind of in the form of a person, but I kind of thought the engagement was just going to last forever because this is not a person, right? Like I didn't think you could legitimately marry a non-human person. Like okay. I mean, well then, so I have a question. You can marry a dog, right? A lot of places, bestiality is illegal. So, like,
all
but
around
when
the
you
world,
marry, right? So, but when you marry your dog, does that now give you the right to marital relations with your spouse? Or
Ew.
Ruby? Ruby?
Mm-hmm.
Bad Ruby.
Listen, I don't understand. Why are you marrying a dog? And I don't get. So I'm just, what is that? What they were trying to do? Are they trying to get around the bestiality laws? Like, is that why you would do it? Like, I don't understand. That's why I don't. Like, I get marrying yourself over marrying
Ruby
an
headcanon,
animal.
people. Ruby headcanon.
Well, I guess Fido, they get along just fine. Every time she calls Fido, he comes over and see what she wants. So hey.
Oh gosh.
What if things don't work out? I mean, you divorce your dog and your tree too? Like it.
Well, I have it on good authority, right? That you don't even have to wait for the divorce. You can actually just poison your dog or pay the vet to put him down.
Wow. That's true. I guess you could legally kill your tree too, right? Just grab a chainsaw, go in the middle of the night, like. Wow. Okay. Yeah, people are getting desperate. Clearly.
Yeah. All right. So we have discussed this, and as much as we can, Hope James gets some help and works out for him. That's all I could say. Don't do it, brother. Don't do it.
James, run. That's my advice to you, my good brother. Run.
That's right. Don't do
Leave Tatiana where she is. She ain't trying to listen to you. She's not trying to work with you. Just let her go, James. Let her go.
That's right. Run. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, don't forget, you guys, tomorrow's article reaction is 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Come and check us out. And thank you for participating. Thank you guys for writing in the chat room, interesting comments. Those that participate on the panel, thank you. And those who contributed to the channel. Join in tomorrow, as I said, for article reaction, and I will play the commercial on the way out. And until then, peace.
Cheers, y'all.
Peace out, family.
Hey, folks, it's your nighttime, it's your right time DJ Music. Make sure you join Char Willie each and every Saturday, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, for article reaction, right here on your local YouTube channel. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe to Article Reaction.